let's talk about that resilience as it applies to business. At some point, you decide I'm going to have my own firm. When was that? What year was that?
So it was 2019, right
So
before the
6 years ago.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you were 30 or so at the time, decided to become an entrepreneur right before the pandemic. And let me get to, that business journey of, were there moments that you thought your business wasn't going to survive, that it was just not going to make it through? And
Oh,
how
yeah.
did you push through those moments?
So right when I didn't make necessarily a decision. I was kind of like put in a position that I had to make a choice, right? I had worked previously in a firm that I thought I would still be in today,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden that wasn't the case anymore. And I talk a lot about my dad because he's involved in this a lot. He came to me, he was like, "Do you still want to work for someone else?
Mm.
Or do you just want, can you do this on your own? Like, do you know
Mm.
the law?" I was like, "Yes, I know the law." "Can you do this?" I was like, "Yes, I can do this." He was like, "Then why don't you do this on your own?"
Wow.
So one day I'm on, Sunbiz opening a professional association. And then 6 months later, no, 8 months later, the pandemic hits.
Wow.
And right there and then, I definitely thought I was not going to survive.
Hmm.
I was like, I just started a business, and the borders were actually essentially closed. you
Yeah.
know? So that was the closest the border has ever been. It was during COVID.
Yeah, so there's
And,
very little demand for your services. You
you
can't meet in
know,
person with clients.
no. And it's right when Zoom was, starting to become a thing. How do
Yeah.
we use this new technology to kind of deal with the demand that we're having right now? And I remember the SBA loan came out. And I
Wow.
was like, well, let's do this right now to make it work, right? So I did it, and we started picking back up, work started to come back up. But during immigration, and depending on the climate, it can definitely wear you out. So 2023, it was a second time that I was just burnt out.
Mm. Mm.
And it wasn't even that I didn't think that my business was going to make it. I didn't
Mm.
think I was going to make it in the business
Wow.
because I was just so tired of just dealing, actually constantly putting myself in the place of the immigrant
Mm.
and just being so mad at their quote unquote dumb choices
Mm.
for
Mm.
certain situations that I'm like, I'm telling you this is not going to work. I'm telling you this is going to be bad for you and your family. And you still chose to do what was bad. And that's when you start to realize, the morality of things and how what's morally wrong for me or what doesn't make sense to me because of my situation, because of my experience, might be entirely different to you because your situation, it's entirely different. You're a different person. So then last year, as you so up and close witnessed,
Yeah.
um, I actually, the year before and then intensify last year, I realized that I was taught to be a lawyer. But being a business owner, is an entirely different beast that has nothing to do with the law. Nothing. And it didn't matter how much of the law I knew, I did not know how to um, healthily run my business for myself. So it definitely took me into this journey of, reevaluating the way that I have been doing business.
Mm.
And then also when it came time for my son to be born, I was faced with postpartum depression, and it was very hard balancing, knowing that I wanted to keep on going with my business, but emotionally not wanting to because I just couldn't. You
Mm.
know, and finding a balance and fighting with myself and the voices in my head on a daily basis to be able to get on to the other side and be able to, come back into the office in my business attire and not feel like I was out of place.